Switched it up, me, switched it up, yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Gandy's Tackle Talk. So, tonight we are going to talk about soft plastics. Soft plastics are where it started for me. This is how I learned how to fish. So, my first bass was ever caught really with artificial bait on a ribbon-tail worm. So, just a Texas rig. I think I had a 1/4 ounce lead weight using monofilament line on a, I think it was a True Turn hook, because that's what my dad still uses. He loves those hooks, and that's what I started with. But there's so many different ways to go about soft plastics. There's a lot of questions that I get all the time. You know, what colors do I use? What size do I use? What style? What am I looking for? What brand should I buy? There's another question I get quite often. But really, it's all subjective. I mean, I have used a ton of different brands, tried a ton of different techniques, and I found that pretty much anything will catch you a fish eventually. But I found what's comfortable for me, what works for me. I'm in the state of Florida, like I've said before, and so this varies. Any of this advice that I'm giving you varies from state to state, or country if you're watching from somewhere else. Everything is a little bit different depending on your body of water. So any advice that I give you is coming from my experience in the state of Florida. I live in Central Florida, so a lot of shallower lakes, a lot of darker water, more swampy stuff, if that makes any sense. But I can give you some good advice on kind of what to look for, and I think some of it does kind of work everywhere to an extent. So just keep that in mind. You need to find somebody in your area that's really knowledgeable if you have any questions about soft plastics, that may be able to help you more than I can help you. But let's get started. So point number one is going to be what brand. That's one of the questions I get a lot. What brand? Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Find what you like. Find something that's at a price point that you like and go with it. I use a ton of different brands. I use Gambler, Zoom, Sixth Sense. I use a local company. I say local company, but it's a small business. I've been using them for a little while now, and I love them. Rippin' Lips Lures. It's a small company. He hand injects these baits, and he makes custom lures for me, and it's awesome. He sponsors our tournament club, which is great. But I really like his baits. I think I said Gambler already. There's a ton of different brands. Yum is a great company, and they're cheap. You can get most of their packs of baits for $3 a pack, most anywhere you go. And I'm pretty sure that I have caught more fish on a Yum Dinger, I think that's what it's called, Cinco style bait, and an array of different colors. But it just goes to show you do not have to spend big money on baits to catch fish. So brand really doesn't matter. Look for something that you like, something that's in your price point, because I know a lot of these baits can get really expensive. Some of the baits that I buy, they run $7 or $8 a pack, depending on where you go, and you're getting 5, 6, maybe 8 lures. That's a lot of money to spend, and soft plastics don't last forever. So I think this right here is a Ozark Trail from Walmart stick bait. It's a really good looking bait, and I've caught fish on them, and they're very cheap. I think they're $1.99 a pack. So brand is very subjective. Brand is something that you just have to experiment with and find what you like. When it comes to colors, it's very dependent on what your watercolors are, what your conditions are, your temperatures. All of that can play an effect in what color you choose. But for me in the state of Florida, there's a lot of different colors I like, but there's really only 3 or 4 colors that just work all the time. You can use these colors a lot. Like I said, I fish a lot of darker water. And when I say darker water, I mean stained, like max 1 foot visibility when you're looking down into the water. Some of the lakes are clearer than that, but most of the water I fish, there's not very much visibility. There is more visibility, it's maybe 2 to 3 foot, depending on where you're at on the water. But and I'm also fishing shallow, so a lot of these are just dirtier, murkier, swampy lakes. But I've found that you cannot go wrong in the waters down here with just a dark color. So this is a Zoom, I'm pretty sure it's called South African Special. It's got some gold and red flake in it, some silver flake. It's like a dark purplish black. This is a 10-inch old monster ribbon tail. And I have caught more fish on these darker colored 10-inch worms than anything, in darker water anyway. So you can't really go wrong because they do work in clear water too, down here in Florida anyway. I've caught a lot of fish in very clear water. There's a few lakes around here where it's 8 to 10 foot visibility. And I still catch fish on these darker colors. So you really can't go wrong with a darker color. But the darker the water, the darker the color you want to go. Or if you have more muddy water, you might want to go with something a little brighter so they can see it a little better during the day. And my boy's calling for me out there. But color just depends on your water clarity and how stained the water is. So I know in lakes that are stained but not super black dark water, you know, you could get away with like a baby bass color. This is a Zoom trickworm. Something a little lighter. It's got a little bit of pearl in the belly, and it's got some black flake. It's kind of like a translucent watermelon color. So those work great. You've got your, I think this is California 420 color, and this is just a Zoom speed worm, the Ultra Vibe speed worm. And you can see it's kind of a darker green with some red flake. Has a little bit of a watermelon on the color. See how it's translucent? So there's that you can use. And this works in dark water too. So color is important, but here in Florida, if I didn't have a huge selection of colors, I would go with something a little darker. And that would pretty much do me. I mean, the black and blues, you got the black and blue crawls, black with blue flake. Those work great. Here's one. I don't even know the color of this one, but it's a big gambler swim bait. It's like a purple plum color with some flake in it. So darker colors, like if I had to choose, I would just choose darker colors. They just work. I like them. But in clear water situations, you don't want to always fish with dark lures. Sometimes you want something a little more natural looking, you know, like you got that right there. It's kind of like a Houdini color, little swim bait. So it's got some pearl in the belly, you got some red and black flake in it, a little more natural looking. And then here's one, kind of like a watermelon, black flake, a little bit of purple in the belly it looks like, but something a little more natural. Works in clearer water. And also when you get clearer water, you can get away with white baits. This is a I cannot remember the name of this bait. This is the 13 Fishing, one of their baits, but it's kind of like a twin tail soft jerk bait, kind of fluke bait. I can't remember the name of it. Sorry guys, I don't have all this prepared, but you get the idea. Here's just a regular Zoom Super Fluke. It's got the little split tail there, but the white color. With clearer water, you can definitely get away with this. In certain dark water situations, like if they're chasing shad or shiners or whatever they're chasing, you can get away with these if they're feeding real heavy. But most of the time, I try to stick with more neutral / dark colors. So you've got your June bugs. You know, June bug color. Those are great colors. So really it just depends on your watercolor and what you like fishing with. I have a lot of confidence in June bug. That's a color that I catch a lot of fish on in clear and stained water. And the California 420, which is kind of like a watermelon red flake deal, you can get away with these in both. I've caught fish in clear water where I had 8 to 10 foot visibility. I've also caught them in lakes that were really dark, you only had 1 foot of visibility. So it all depends on that. So now some other advice that I'll give you about color is, let's say I'm fishing a tournament and it's low light conditions first thing when I start. I will start with a darker color, like a June bug, or like the South African special, or even just a straight black worm, and get bites there. But once that sun comes out, sometimes they'll quit biting the darker colors and they want something with a little bit of flash to it. So I'll go to the California 420. You've got that red flake shining in there. That's a great way to catch them. Or go to like a Houdini color and they'll start biting that. So there's a lot of options when it comes to colors, and everything is just really just play with it and figure out your body of water that you're fishing. Try different colors, different times of day. You'll find that you might be able to get away with a color for this amount of time when it's low light. Once the sun comes out, you might have to switch to something else. So just really play around with it and have a good time experimenting. I know that I'm kind of a tackle nut. I love tackle. I love different baits. I like trying new things. So that's what makes it fun for me, is trying out new techniques, new baits. So get out there and experiment and try a bunch of different brands, try a bunch of different colors, and figure out what works for you. But I will say this, if you're just wanting to get into it, you just want something that kind of works everywhere, go with a more neutral color, like a watermelon red or a California 420 color. These work in dark and clear water. And anything like that with some red flake, that's great. The June bugs, they work in both. I've caught them in both. Even red shad color. I don't have a red shad here to show you, but red shad is a very versatile color. My dad, 99% of the time, is using a red shad culprit worm. He just has confidence in it, and it works. No matter where you go, you can catch fish on it. So definitely keep that in mind. Make sure that you are just getting something that's more neutral to the watercolor and your area, and you will catch fish. So you don't think you have to go buy a ton of baits, a ton of different, colors right off the bat. Get something that's neutral and fish with it until you get that bait down. So that was brand and color. Now style of bait is a completely different ball game. Here in Florida, during the summertime, like late spring, summer, and early fall, we can get away with these bigger baits. So the Zoom Old Monster, that's a 10-inch worm. That's a pretty good size worm. Even some of the big trick worms, Magnum, this is a 12-inch. I believe that's a plum color. But, that's a big bait compared to my head. I have a big head, but that is a big bait. But you can get away with that this time of year. We're in the dog days of summer right now. We are getting into rainy season. But you can get away with bigger baits. But I have found here in Florida, when wintertime rolls around, temperatures start dropping, you might have to go a little smaller and finessey with it. You might have to flip a crawl up in some heavy cover, something a little bit smaller profile. Instead of using a big gambler swim bait, you might have to go with a smaller, I believe this is a Bridgemaster's Fisherman's Candy Store. It's a local store that we have around here, and they make some soft plastics. They're great baits at a great price, but you might have to go down to something a little bit smaller to be able to get those bites. Even like the Flukes, that's a smaller profile bait, so you can probably get bit on it. A Cinco, you can get bit on that. But, sometimes you find yourself in a situation where you just can't get bites. Well, sometimes you need to downsize. So I always look at it this way: slow down and size down. If you're not getting very many bites, the fish aren't very active, slow down and size down. You want to slow your retrieve down. You want to put a lighter weight. If you're fishing a Texas rig, put a lighter weight on there so it has a slower fall, or go weightless. A lot of times with a Cinco style bait, it just goes straight on the hook and I'm letting it slow fall. So you got to keep that in mind. And then sizing down, this is a 5-inch Cinco, I'm pretty sure, but they make little 3-inch style Senkos, and sometimes you got to throw that on a Ned rig, or the back of a jig, whatever. Throw a crawl on the back of a jig and just slow roll it. Drag it along the bottom, hit everything, get it in front of their face and shake it. So you have to keep that in mind too. Now, again, I'm speaking from Florida standpoint, so every state is a little bit different. Hopefully one of these days I'll venture out and learn some more about other states, so I have more information for you. But that's been one of my key things is summertime, you can go with bigger baits, something a little bit bigger, and you get big bites. During the wintertime, I always have to size down, throw something a little bit smaller to be able to get them to eat it, because they're just not active. And also during the spawn, I have found when bass are spawning and I'm fishing on beds or whatever it may be, I have to downsize. So, dropping a big swim bait or a big worm in front of them, they don't want to eat it because they're not in feeding mode. They are protecting their bed, they're protecting their fry, eggs, whatever you want to say. And so you have to downsize. You might have to go to a little skinny trick worm. And sometimes I'll even bite these down. I'll bite an inch or two off of them and just have, that portion of the bait that I'm using to try to get those bites, or little crawls, things like that. So there's a lot of little tricks that you can learn just doing it. Just try fishing different soft plastics and learn the fish in your area. Every state is so different. So, but that's the tips that I can give you. With color, choose something neutral to start with. Something like a watermelon red or a green pumpkin, or even a June bug is neutral in my opinion. And go fish it. And then if fish just don't seem active, downsize, slow down. You might have to go to a little bit lighter setup to be able to get those fish to bite. I know watching videos, people up north with smallmouth bass, they're using light line and, really, really light baits. What I consider a light bait is an 1/8 ounce. Up there, it might be a 1/16 ounce that they're going off of, to be able to get those bites. So it's different everywhere. But in Florida, choose something neutral, start with that, and just fish it. Find what styles of baits you like, and run with them and see what the fish like. You might buy a pack of baits, use it one time, and never use it again. But that's just kind of part of the game. You spend some money sometimes on something that you're never going to use again. But that's the fun of it, is venturing out and trying new things and trying different baits. But yeah, for soft plastic, that's about all I have. When you have darker water, go with darker colors. If you have lighter water, go with more neutral, lighter colors. When it's hot, you can use bigger baits. When it's cold, downsize a little bit, with your weight and the size of your bait. And just have fun fishing different baits and trying different companies. There's a lot of great companies out there that make great products. And I suggest just try them all. I've tried a lot of different companies, and there's still thousands of companies I haven't tried, and I'm planning on getting to them. So anyway, I hope this helps you out with choosing soft plastics, and it gives you a little bit of a better perspective, and a better idea of how to choose your colors and your styles, your size, whatever it may be, and get out there and go catch a fish and figure them out. You'll learn the fish in your area if you spend enough time on them. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe the video. If you like this content, comment down there. Let me know what you think. If you have any ideas for new content, throw them in there. I will definitely try to get to them and read them. And if you have any questions about anything, shoot me the questions. If I don't know the answer, I'll find somebody who does. I hope y'all have a great night, and I will see you on the next one.